Hey, good evening to you. Mark Stott with HurricaneTrack.com. It is 9:53 p.m. Central Time, 7 minutes to, so that'd be almost 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to talk about Laura and Marco here. Again, big shout out to Spooky, as we know her, Kari from the UK, for making this title card for me, which serves as our thumbnail on YouTube. Really appreciate it. A lot of positive feedback about it. So what are we going to talk about right now? I'll try to keep it as short as I can. I know that's hard for me to do. I've got a lot of experience with this stuff, and I try to share that with you. Currently, I'm in the hotel room here in Gulfport, Mississippi. Had a good dinner tonight with my colleagues, and we are all settled in, going to get a good night's sleep and try to figure everything out. And, you know, our objective is a lot different than yours if you're in the path of these systems. We want to stay safe. We all have that common objective there. But we're also here for the science. Yes, there is an excitement to it. There's no doubt about it. It's very exciting just by the inherent nature of it. And we're also here to document what goes on, both from, you know, the camera perspective using iPhones, GoPros, all that handheld stuff, to the unmanned cameras that I have developed from off-the-shelf technology over the years. 15 years ago, right here in Gulfport, Mississippi, was one of the greatest potential successes, you know, partial successes, and a monumental failure of the unmanned camera project, and that was Hurricane Katrina. That was 15 years ago, coming up on August the 29th. So kind of ironic that that's where I am now, along the Hurricane Highway, Interstate 10, definitely part of that Hurricane Highway network. So we have a lot of technology that we can put out now to document what happens, to capture visual data, to show you what goes on. And that is all crowdfunded. You see that little marker down there, that part of the slide, crowdfunded science. And we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. I don't want to harp on it too much every time I do an update, but if I don't tell you how we fund it, I don't get funded, and you don't get to be a part of it. You know, if you don't know about it, you can't become a part of it. So we're going to talk about what's going on now, and then I'm going to get back to some very basics. Instead of, you know, models, and the same old, I'm going to teach you a few things, especially if you're new, or you maybe haven't had a hurricane threat in a while, you're just tuning in for the first time in a long time, whatever the case may be. We have some interesting things to discuss. I think that'll be very helpful at the same time. First, the satellite imagery here, courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com, and we see Laura down here with a very impressive envelope of energy. And, you know, this is the one that we're really going to have to focus on in the next several days, I do believe. I think it's starting to come together and become very clear in the guidance and in the pattern. Greg Nordstrom has taught me and reminded me a lot about that. He and I both have learned about pattern recognition from people such as Joe Bastardi, who's now with the Weather Bell Company. And, you know, we learn from people, and sometimes you can stand on their shoulders and become taller, if you understand that metaphor. And, you know, you try to build on what they've done. So Greg and I have learned a lot from people like Joe and others. There's a gentleman named Larry Cosgrove, and many more. And so pattern recognition is very important. And Laura is going to be heading into a pattern over here that is going to be very, very favorable. No doubt in my mind about it. What's more doubtful is what happens here with Marco. Some strong upper-level winds cutting across this way, serving a little bit as an evacuation channel for the outflow, where, again, all that air is coming in at the center, spinning counterclockwise. It goes up vertically. It's supposed to, in the perfect engine. And then it has to evacuate out at the upper levels of the atmosphere. And typically you get an anticyclone or a high-pressure area aloft, and that air is thrown out very evenly in a perfect situation. You think about what Irma looked like, you know, what Michael looked like, and Michael was a kind of a special situation, just that perfect spot Even Charlie. Charlie was involved with a trough very similar to what we're seeing here with Marco. Luckily, I don't think we're going to have the similar result in that Marco shouldn't, with asterisks either side of it, right? Shouldn't become a major hurricane like Charlie did. But it's got a little bit going for it, this mass evacuation of the air here out of the circulation. But there is shear overall. There's also some dry air. And the circulation for Marco is quite small. In fact, I forgot to pull up the vorticity signature, so we're going to go to my website, where I've got it linked here for convenience. Hey, there's us. And I know that the University of Wisconsin has the cyclone symbols on here, but there's the vorticity signature of Marco, and here it is for Laura, and Laura is much larger. So the center, the heart, if you will, of Marco is smaller. It's more fragile, all right, and so it's going to be susceptible to changes in its environment. And mostly the global models, the hurricane models, the guidance does not do much with Marco, and that's a good thing. Might become a hurricane still, certainly, but I'm not as concerned about impacts to the central Gulf Coast up here with Marco as I was earlier today. And yes, things can change even 6 hours at a time. So let's look through it real quick. Let's start with Marco here. I haven't had recon in a while, I don't think. I think it'll come in later. So the estimated pressure is 994 millibars. Winds, they're thinking, are still around 65 miles per hour. And it's moving to the north-northwest at 13. If we look at the public advisory, and I'm trying to teach you a lot about these products. If you really want to know what's going on, read these, you know. These are the summaries in here of what's happening. And by the way, let me just kind of bring something up. We had an idea that we tossed about at dinner tonight. I don't know how I'm going to pull this off, but I think it would be an amazing thing to do, especially as my crowdfunding increases, because I would like to be able to pay somebody to do this. We have a lot of volunteers, but anyway, it would be really neat to start having these read verbatim, you know, and put on as almost like a podcast, an instant podcast, probably on YouTube. You know, have a slide or something, a graphic that represents, you know, something in the background, and just read it so that people can listen to these instead of having to read them. We might reach more people that way. That's just something to think about. The public advisory and the discussion. These are very important products from the National Hurricane Center. Anyway, something we're going to think about. If we can figure out how to do it, we will. But this is your first block of the summary of everything. Very important. Watches, warnings, etc. Then the discussion and outlook. This gives you just a little idea of, oh, look, right there from Air Force Reconnaissance. It is 994. I stand corrected. I don't mind being wrong sometimes. That's okay. It's okay to be wrong. You learn from it. So yeah, Recon's been out there. Fine group of people that do that for us. And, you know, they're saying 994. All right, cool. So this is your discussion and out. Whoops, I drew an arrow. Your discussion and outlook through here. That's very helpful as well. And then the hazards affecting land. So this is important here. Storm surge is deadly and damaging. So what are they thinking? Grand Isle, Louisiana to the Alabama-Florida border, 3 to 5 feet. And that includes Lake Bourne and Mobile Bay. 3 to 5 feet. So let's talk about that for a moment. And this is assuming that Marco comes in at the intensity that they're thinking. There's a lot of variables involved, but sort of the worst case scenario here is 3 to 5 feet above ground level. And I'm about 5'8". So if it came in at that maximum, the water level could come up in certain areas above the ground up to 5 feet. So just my chin and areas up, phone's over there, I won't be able to get that, would be underwater. All right, so this is serious stuff. It's life-threatening. Lake Pontchartrain, you know, and I don't know how you say that other way. It looks like MAU would be Maurepas? I don't know. I'm going to ask somebody, though, because it does matter. 2 to 4 feet in that area. Sabine Pass, which is over there near Texas and Louisiana, right? That's the Texas-Louisiana border to Grand Isle, 2 to 4 feet. So surge could be fairly significant with this event. Flooding low-lying areas, and I know a lot of folks that live in these areas are used to it. A lot of people have built up, especially since Rita in 2008, and that's a good thing. But still, storm surge could be a problem, so please keep that in mind, okay? Pay attention to that. Wind, yeah, there could be hurricane conditions. If this becomes a hurricane, we'll see. There's a lot of negative factors, and we'll look at that in a minute, against Marco, all right? Rainfall, a lot of rain comes with these tropical systems. Marco's not a very large system, and it's going to be moving fast enough, I think, that the rain won't be a big deal. But, yes, you could get some serious rainfall, and even up into, once this makes landfall, into the central part of the country, just depending on where it goes. A lot of text messages. So keep your eyes on the rain, all right? And again, this is all in the public advisory. That product right there. I encourage you to really read these. The forecast discussion, it's taken on a distinctly sheared appearance. That's a very important statement there. It's very sheared. Reports from an Air Force plane, microwave imagery, and radar all indicate that deep convection is limited. It's mostly on the east side. Greg Nordstrom and all of us talked about this tonight. Still, the plane measured winds of near 55 knots, probably in some of those areas of intense convection. It's a small tropical storm, and it's susceptible to rapid changes in structure. So let's look at that for a minute and just think about that one little area right there in this statement. That even a brief relaxation of the shear, as forecaster Zelensky says, that's the forecaster that wrote this, even just a small period, 6 to 12 hours of a relaxation in the shear would allow Marco to really blossom. And it could become a hurricane, and then it starts pushing water ahead of itself. And then it could really start to downgrade itself again and sort of self-destruct. And not even self-destruct. Other forces would act on it and kind of destroy it, outside of it, doing things like if it stalled or something, which is not going to. Self-destruct, not what I meant. It's just susceptible to some pretty quick up and down changes. I should have just stuck with that and not tried to overanalyze it for you. And there is the distinct possibility that if the shear remains consistently high, that it could, weaken right as it approaches the coast. Okay? So Marco is uncertain. Uncertain is uncertain on a pretty big scale here. All right? That's the bottom line. So, due to the low confidence of the forecast, most of the intensity information here to err on the side of safety. The intensity forecast is above a majority of the guidance, and they're just being really honest. In sharp contrast to earlier today, at least no large changes were made to the track forecast. So that's good, all right? So, the key messages are very similar to what we saw in the public advisory. Storm surge, wind, other issues associated with it. They think maybe it reaches 80 miles per hour, and then it drops off pretty quickly before it makes landfall. What does this all look like on the track map for Marco? I'll show you that real quick, in case you haven't seen this. So the hurricane watch is the pink area, and it's looking like it could come up here and turn in and make landfall in southeast Louisiana. So depending on how this ends up, you could get some pretty big impacts here, or not much at all. I think the shear is going to be strong enough that we'll see a period in here where it kind of gives us, the willies. Oh, it's starting to really come together, and then that shear is going to take it out. That's what my instincts tell me. The pattern right now is not going to be favorable for Marco to really hold on and become a major significant event. That's what it looks like. But there's a lot of uncertainty there, so please keep that in mind as well. On to Laura in the public advisory. Laura tangled up over the Greater Antilles, battling land of Hispaniola. And this has just a host of watches and warnings. Please read all of that. And right now, not much change in strength over the next couple of days because it's going to be tangled up with land, heavy rainfall, some storm surge, depending on where there's onshore flow, high surf, etc. And this is a different region down here. We're talking about, the islands of the Greater Antilles, right? It's past Puerto Rico now, and it's tangled up over the Dominican Republic. And depending on where centers try to reform, low-level centers may come up here, and then they die out, and another one comes over here. Right now, Laura, the main inhibitor is land, because, boy, look at the satellite imagery here, and, Laura really has that look overall. The one thing holding it back is interaction with Hispaniola. And I talked about this earlier. You might be wondering, well, how in the world is it ever even going to survive? We hear all the time about these systems going over land, such as Hispaniola, and they just shred everything. I said it before, I'll say it again. When you got a powerful hurricane coming into that region, they run into that land mass, and it rips the guts out of them, and they rarely ever make a good, solid comeback. But that ceiling has not been reached yet. I said that earlier with Laura. The ceiling is still there. So it's constantly trying to reach that ceiling, and once it's clear of the land, this is where our instincts as forecasters, especially those at the Hurricane Center and others, they know this. I thought I was pulling up I guess I didn't have it. Hold on, I'm going to try to get the MJO forecast. I forgot. I'm sorry, it'll be okay. That's where this comes into play, and I talked about it earlier, that the pattern going into the next few days, and this is updated even recently, we're in phase 8, almost into phase 1 of the Madden-Julian oscillation. All you need to know, for now, is that this is a fancy way of saying that the pattern, the large-scale pattern for Laura, over the next few days here, is going to gradually become more favorable. And it's almost a certainty that that is going to happen. So as Laura moves out of the Greater Antilles here and into the Gulf of Mexico, eventually, the pattern up through this region is going to be quite conducive for further strengthening, and I bet we're going to see that reflected in the discussion. So, it's going to come over and do whatever, and then it's going to come up here, and this area up through here is under the gun for possibly a major hurricane. So let's just read the discussion on this real quick, see who wrote it. John Cangialosi. I think I met John once. So a lot of information here, 3 different paragraphs. Let's just look at the intensity part right here. Since the tropical storm is expected to track across the mountainous islands during the next 36 to 48, little change in intensity seems like a good bet. However, after the storm pulls away from the islands and moves over the warm Gulf of Mexico waters, while being in low wind shear and high moisture conditions, strengthening seems very likely. And then this part right here, most of the better performing intensity models show Laura making landfall along the U.S. northern Gulf Coast as a hurricane in about 4 days. It's slightly higher than the previous one, the intensity forecast, and it lies roughly near the middle of the guidance suite. I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm being very honest with you. You say, oh, I got a bad feeling. It's not just, a hunch, or I have an itchy this, or a funny feeling that. You get a bad feeling based on years of looking at this, and the pattern is coming that could allow this to become a powerful hurricane. We can hope that it doesn't, but I want you to be prepared mentally that it does. And that's not hype or fear-mongering. That is an honest statement from somebody that's been doing this for 25 years. And we saw with other hurricanes, Katrina, Rita, and others, that take advantage of a very warm Gulf and all these other things that are right in front of us. This is the forecaster saying this. Low wind shear, high moisture conditions, warm Gulf waters. I mean, that's not hype, folks. That's reality. And the reality is that this could become very powerful and inflict a lot of damage somewhere when it makes landfall, and where it makes landfall. Where? Let's look at the track map real quick, try to get an idea. Maybe Louisiana, but we really don't know. I mean, some of the modeling is taking it over towards Texas. We know that. I know you guys see that. Whether you look it up yourselves at Tropical Tidbits or elsewhere, or you see it posted on social media. This is the official forecast track, and the cone of uncertainty is there, regarding the center. Impacts will extend way out from the center, and I'm going to tell you, once it gets right here, and it's off the northwest coast of Cuba, the clock counts down towards zero in a big way. It really does. I believe that it's going to be more over to the west here, just based on what I'm seeing, but I don't know that for sure. And it's within the cone of uncertainty, so that's not a far off, whoa, they're wrong if it goes over there. No, they're not. The cone of uncertainty is there for a reason. That the center is in that area something like 2/3 of the time, or I can't remember right off the top of my head. I apologize, but the cone is about the center. And, sometimes the center will be outside of the cone. The science isn't perfect. But I just have a feeling that we're going to see a subtle shift more towards the west, enough that maybe Lake Charles, I don't know, we'll see. It doesn't matter overall right now. We'll get a much better idea, but you can bet there's going to be storm surge and other problems along a pretty big area. And it won't be long, a couple of days from now, that we'll probably see mention, a lot of people texting me, of a hurricane watch posted. All right? So for you guys along the Gulf Coast here, for both Marco, but especially Laura, New Orleans, western Mississippi, all along here, down to Houston, Galveston, Freeport, be ready, all right? Take this very seriously. Don't stay up all night fretting over it. Save your energy for getting ready in case you need to. Seriously. I got to do the same thing when I'm out here thinking about what I'm going to do to set up equipment with my colleagues. Our plan, just real quick, again, we're in Gulfport, Mississippi. We can move laterally on Interstate 10, east or west, no problem. We're going to be here probably through tomorrow. We're going to see what Marco is supposed to do. I would really like to put a camera, down in Grand Isle tomorrow. And so I'll put this out there. If anybody has oceanfront property right there in the front row that you would allow me to put a camera on the piling of your property, please send me an email. I'll put the link to my email. It's easy. It's Hurmark, Hurrmark, like Hurricane Mark, Hurrmark @gmail.com. Let me know. We can put them on utility poles and other columns that are in the public realm, but it's better when we work with people that say, yeah, you can put it at my property. If you're 3 or 4 rows off the ocean, the Gulf, that's not as helpful. Preferably on the front row of the beach, if you know somebody down there, etc. Please let me know. Would love to work with you, and we'll give you access to it and all that good stuff. So Grand Isle, that would be pretty neat to do. And then everything else, I don't know. It's all up to Marco. If we get up tomorrow and it looks much like it could be stronger, we don't know exactly what we're going to do for Marco yet. And of course, we don't really know what we're going to do for Laura. It just depends, and we're all going to figure it out together. All right? So as I sign off here, just a reminder, that's how we fund what we do. I've talked about Patreon before. I'll talk about it more again in more detail soon, I'm sure. But if you want to join up and be a part of something really remarkable and special, we had a really good day today. A lot of new people. They love what they're seeing. We're trying to work together. It's an amazing community. And that word crowdfunding, the crowd part, is awesome. So if you want to get involved, it's really cool. And we'd love to have you, all right? And you'll have access to what we do. I wish I could make it available to everybody at no cost whatsoever. And until the day, and I'm dead serious about this, that somebody can come along and angel invest, basically say, all right, here's $100,000 a year for the next 10 years. You're good to go. Now make it available to everybody. If somebody does that, I'll make it available to everybody. I got to be able to pay my bills. I don't work somewhere and then do this. This is my job. And part of that ability is to be able to help you, is to be able to do this full time. So seriously, it's really neat. So if you want to get involved, we'd love to have you. By the way, tomorrow we will have the live 360 cam running. Yeah, 360-degree live video. Who has that? We do. We'll have that running tomorrow. And that is always going to be available on YouTube, publicly available. You don't have to sign up for that. You can just be on YouTube, and there you go. All right? And that is also a benefit. You know, our crowdfunding people make that possible in more ways than you'll ever know. You guys have a great evening. As always, thank you for tuning in. It's good to have you here watching. I hope you learned a little bit more. You see about the process, about how we do what we do, what we look at, etc. And we'll watch and see how this evolves together, I guess. Get a good night's sleep, and I'll talk to you some more tomorrow. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. We'll reconvene sometime during the day on Sunday.